All right. Hello, my name is Beth McGill, and I am a dance faculty member here at Moorpark College. And I'm so excited to be here today to share with you something called the language of dance. And some of you may know, and others may not know, that there's an actual notation system that is used for movement, for actions, just like there's notation for music. Now, these notation systems have had varied degrees of use and varied application, but what I've found so wonderfully valuable is looking at the meaning that's embedded in movement. And so that's what I thought we would talk about today. So to start, I'd like to share what is the language of dance. So when we talk about dance, sometimes they'll talk about dance steps or dance moves. But what I like to speak directly to are the concepts behind a movement, so that there's an idea at the heart of an action, that there's something underneath the details of an action that convey its meaning or its concept. These concepts are represented by a symbol set. So we'll look at some of those examples in a moment. And that these concepts and these symbols must be embodied, that they must be explored in action, that they're not just the theory. And so it's fascinating because a movement concept is both a symbol and the action. So it's an interesting umbrella for talking about movement that hopefully unifies dancers of diverse backgrounds and abilities or cultural contexts, because when I speak to a concept, it can manifest in lots of different ways for the individual. So we generate meaning in our movement. And it helps us draw connections to the other arts and other disciplines, because then we can start to look at movement as metaphor. It becomes a lens for somatic investigation and life learning. Now, somatic is an interesting word. I'm wondering how many of you have heard the word somatic? Just a show of hands. Yeah. So soma refers to the body. And a somatic investigation or a somatic practice is investigation of your personal experience through the body. So it's interesting when you take a somatics class, it's not about what it looks like in the mirror. In fact, better to not even have a mirror. It's about what is being felt on the inside. So when we talk about our movement concepts, we're really interested on the feeling from the inside, because I believe that's where a lot of the meaning resides. So the movement alphabet was developed by a woman, Anne Hutchinson Guest. She is my teacher, and I'm very honored to have her really as my friend now. She just celebrated her 100th birthday. So she's pretty phenomenal and still sharp as a tack. And perhaps because of her use of dance and notation, right? Arguably, maybe. So these are the primary movement actions that we can categorize all motion. And our experience of the body is really rooted in this idea of action and stillness, to move or not to move. That is the dance question, at least. Perhaps the life question. So we can see that some of them might have an easy to follow visual, like falling and balance, right? Those have a visual relationship that seems to make sense. Others might be a little more hard to determine, something like support, for instance, maybe not as clear from a graphic representation. But this system was designed in order to have all of the shapes different and distinct, right? Just like all of the letters of the alphabet have to be different and distinct so we know which is which. And of course, they couldn't look like the letters of the alphabet either. So fascinating. So the elements of dance literacy brings us to understand that the language of dance is a dance-based dance theory framework built on a set of symbols called the movement alphabet. It's about experiencing, interpreting, and notating dance to construct meaning from multiple sources and notated materials. So when somebody identifies as literate in dance, just like we would talk about literacy in English or another language or technology, we're really speaking to our ability to know all realms. So it's the intake, the synthesizing, the output, all of these aspects of the experience of literacy. It's not just reading and writing, it's how our thoughts are formed also by the language we use. Because in fact, the more variety we have in terms of our language, the more variety we can have in our thinking. The more variety we have in how we package information, and from like a grammatical or syntactical perspective, right? We can shape and design our ideas. Similarly, we can shape and design our actions and our understanding of action and movement. So these are the 6 LOD dance literacy processes, and it starts with sensing. So take a moment here and let's plant our feet on the floor and just sense what's going on for you right now. You're feeling something. You're sensing something. It could be the temperature of the room. It could be an awareness maybe of where you are in relationship to other people. It could be in relationship to me. It could be in relationship to gravity. It could be your energy level, right? You're sensing your life experience. And so then we might say, what about that? And we intentionally direct our energy to that experience, to that sensation. I am a little chilly, or I'm a little warm, or, ooh, yeah, something is maybe, I don't know, I feel a little self-conscious maybe if I'm sitting here in the front row. Or, oh, I'm so pleased I'm in the second row because that's such a relief. No social pressure. We make meaning constantly in regard to how we experience our physical presence on this world. So we begin by addressing, what's that about? I'm going to think about that. I'm going to address it. I'm going to investigate it. What is that? What is that experience? Let me identify it. Maybe you're in stillness right now. Maybe you find yourself gently expanding and gently condensing. Extension and flexion. Maybe you're experiencing your breath. Maybe that becomes something you would want to identify. Maybe there's a symbol set we should use. And then we might observe a friend. Oh, look at that friend across the way. He's decided to cross his legs. Interesting. Cross-lateral patterning. He's also decided to interlace his fingers. This creates an interesting bond. Right? So we could talk about the relationship of the hands. We can observe, then we can interpret. What does it mean that he's crossing his legs? Probably that it's comfortable. But let's experiment. Maybe we identify somebody who's retreated in their heart space. And their heart space has gone back and in and down. Right? There might be something there. I don't know. There might not be. But if you see it in your friend, in your best friend, and you know them, wouldn't you observe it and then potentially interpret it and or at least go up to them and say, hey, what's going on? And then we can generate with it. We can notate with it. So notation can be a documenting process. It can also be a generative process. But I might say, oh, you know, I noticed that when I'm feeling down, this really happens to me. You know, this action happens to me. So I'm going to make a whole dance about this. And what if I play with it in different ways? And what does that make me feel? And what does that do with my headspace? And what does it do with my psychology when I put my body in this place? And what gold might we be able to mine in the process? So why dance notation? Dance notation offers a lens through which we can understand, analyze, and embody the actions of life. There's an excellent book by George Lakoff and Mark Johnson, and it is the study of symbols and metaphors. And there's the premise that our language about our lives is based in our physical experience as human beings. You know, we have terminology and phrases that are rooted in our physical humanity. So if we start to detach from our humanity and from our embodiment, we're really short-circuiting how we can understand each other and ourselves. So our experiences of our body and the world become the means through which we come to know the world. What does it mean? If I say, oh, my energy is up today, probably means I'm feeling good, I'm feeling happy. It's a spatialization metaphor. We have agreed as a culture that up is generally good, that more is generally better. Now, each of these spatialization and physical metaphors can, they have a hierarchy actually. So you have a temperature. Uh-oh, her temperature went up. Oh, that's not good. So we have tons of these micro understandings according to what is good and what is bad, and we use it all the time in our language. So, I've been feeling down. I'm sad, I'm upset. I don't know, I got all turned around. I'm confused. I need to stand on my own 2 feet. We don't say, I need to stand on my 4 feet. We don't say that, right? I got knocked down on all 4s. Fascinating. I feel centered. I feel balanced. I feel emotionally equanimous. I'm falling in love, right? I'm letting myself go and I can't help it. Are you really falling? No, nothing is falling. Maybe your guard. But there you go. See, that is another example of the physicality of our experience is applied to an emotional state again and again and again. Her mind is twisted. I am crazy, but for other reasons. Her mind is not normal. It's warped. That normal would be structured. Twisted connotes maybe something not so good. All of this valuing. So this is the dance of your life. That's my argument. That's my premise, my proposal to you. And how you speak about yourself and others in the world reveals a great deal about your values and your beliefs. We often aren't even aware of it. We often just speak and imply, and somehow we manage to navigate through this world. But what if we took a little more care? What if we took a little more direction? Oh, direction, that's a concept. Notate that one. What direction do we want to move in? How do we want to move? So, dancing our path. When I heard that the theme of the year was pathways and detours, I thought to myself, I can notate that. And I was thinking, wow, that's a cool thing. First of all, people probably don't know that I can notate that. Secondly, how do we hold conceptual spaces for understanding? What is a pathway? What do we already think about pathways? What do we know? What do we dislike? What are the stories that we associate with pathways? Can you name any? Stories you've read, maybe as children? Actually, you can say something here. Yeah. Robert Frost, The Road Not Traveled. What else? Lord of the Rings, adventure. It's a journey, the hero's journey, right? Then we get into Joseph Campbell's work. Well, what about scary path? Can you guys think of any? Yes, Little Red Riding Hood, Hansel and Gretel. There's danger on this path. I need to make sure I know how to retreat at all times, just in case. So, how are you dancing your path? Are you looking forward to something? Are you stuck in one place? Do you need to get grounded? Are you meandering through this world? Are you on a straight path? Do you feel set back? Do you need to take a step back? And are you even looking where you're going? So, this is the concept we've been dancing around today. I know, right? So cheesy. And yet we say this is how we talk. This is how we talk. So this is traveling on any pathway. And dance notation is a bit interesting because we read it from the bottom up. And so the length of the symbol does become a point of communication. So there are 5 pathways in that this any pathway form could take. We could take a straight pathway, a circling pathway clockwise or counterclockwise. We could take a curving pathway, a meandering pathway, or a zigzag pathway. How much do we love to have zigzag pathways in our lives? Like not at all, right? Like, oh yay, I'm going forward very slowly as I go side to side as well. Right? It's taxing. Can't I just get there? Right? How do you feel when you're driving in your car and then it's like, and at the next stop, make a U-turn? And you're like, really? Really? But why? It's going to get you where you need to go. Isn't that a good thing? So, can we reorient ourselves to our understanding of the world? All right. So, here we have a staff. And when you put movement alphabet concepts together on a vertical staff, you start reading at the bottom, you stop at the top, and you read duration as if you were filling up a glass of water, right? Duration and time passes. So here we have 3 examples of a score. So here we have in the far left, we have 3 any pathways. So that means you could travel any way you want. You could take a straight pathway, you could take a curved pathway, you could then meander for some period of time. I don't know what I do. Or, what if my 3 examples are pathway forward, a pathway backward, a pathway forward? Did you want me to go forward the 3rd time? Or did you have another idea? It could be anything. I could go in a circle this way. And then a circle this way. And now I've made a figure 8. So how does it feel when we travel in a circle? When is traveling in a circle something we would want to do? When is it good to arrive where you started? And then here, you start to see some modifications. So this would be a straight pathway with forward steps. You can kind of see it's like an arrow pointing up. And then a straight pathway with sideward traveling, or a straight pathway with backward traveling. So then you start to get design. Now, what we don't know is what else could happen in this pathway. I could create variety. I could spring as I'm traveling forward. I could crawl as I'm traveling forward. I could spring and then end up crawling as I'm traveling forward. I could spring and then end up crawling as I travel forward with strength. I could spring and then end up crawling forward as I'm relaxed and wilted. All of this dynamic play affords us some insight into what's comfortable, what's not comfortable, what we like to do, what we don't like to do. Here's an interesting one. That little, I call him a little alien guy. It's called stillness. Stillness is a bit of an alien concept these days in this world of go, go, go. So exciting to always be going and doing. I have serious FOMO. You have it too. I have it seriously. So interesting because I lead a very rich, varied, dynamic life. And yet still, I get plagued. What if there's something else? So my challenge in life is to stay the course. That's my personal challenge. And sometimes it can feel like drudgery, right? I'm still just going to keep going. Other people, they might be like, I just do the same. I am so bored. I need a spring. I need a rotation. I need a turn. I need to find a new direction. I need to relate to the world differently. Right? All of these concepts. So we may even know where we're going. Like let's say we have a goal. And that's what Moorpark College is trying to encourage you to do as you come in as a student. They're saying, hey, let's get you going somewhere so that you aren't left meandering in the wilderness, in the scary woods forever. You know, and there's certainly benefit to knowing where you're going to go. Otherwise, how would you ever get there? We can argue that, but. So this idea, we may even know where we're going, but how are you going to get there? Are you choreographing your experience in a way that's of interest to you? Maybe you need to cultivate a dynamic quality to make the journey more fulfilling in some way. Maybe you get caught in the spiral downward, let's say. Maybe the challenge is then to cultivate the dynamic of uplift. Maybe putting that in our body and practicing that in our body might transform how we go about other things in our life. Or maybe you're just really uptight and you're like, oh my gosh, yeah. So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go and I'm going to do this. And maybe what we need to cultivate here is a little bit of relaxed, dynamic energy. And chances are you're both at different. That's the cycle of the world. So our pathway can be modified to include simplicity, variety, a relaxed flow of energy and urgency or strength. It might include a relationship with a partner or an orientation of solitude. Right? What's beautiful about these contexts is that it's not it gets us outside of our valuing of good and bad. And it just becomes what is. It's just action. It's either action or stillness. It's just life. It's just a step back. It's just a step forward. It doesn't always have to be loaded. So if the goal, I'm going to assume, my goal in life is to be meaningful. Not to always be easy and not to always be happy. Because we know that all of this comes and goes and floats in and out of our lives. But meaning is what gives us a little bit of grit, right? If I have meaning, I'm going to persevere through the hard times. I'm going to stay committed when I'm feeling a little bit sad and dejected. I'm going to push through and write that last page of my paper. I'm going to push through and make sure I'll just read it one more time, right? Just to see if I catch anything else. Or maybe I'm going to push through and I'm going to get myself to the library because it's there and there are helpful people there, so I hear. There are very helpful people here. So how do you, but if you have the meaning, then you can decide the how. And we can start to look at our actions that will make it more meaningful. So we identify our path and we identify its attributes. We might identify areas of meaningful growth and new experience. How are you putting growth in your path? And growth doesn't always necessarily mean outward, although that's the connotation. Isn't it possible as a tree in autumn sheds its leaves and retreat into itself to endure a tough time? Maybe that's the most important quality for your life in this moment. And guess what? Only you can decide. No one can tell you. I wish it could only be that easy, right? So if no one can tell you exactly, and some people will think that they know. But if there's no black and white, right and wrong, in this capacity of meaning making, what tools do we have? And that's what I think objectifying it into a notated staff, it shades, it removes the lens in a way to see things more clearly, removes the shading. So then we can set an intention, we can choreograph a plan to grow and to embody our lives. And that's what I encourage you to do here today. Is that the last one? So what we know now. We know that movement is life. Life is movement. And we're all moving. If you are living, you are moving. If you are wheelchair bound, you are still moving. You are still able to dance. Dance is not just for the elite who can kick their legs up over their heads. If we can all find a way to experience this dance of life, I'm wondering what might happen. So our understanding of ourselves is inherently rooted in the actions of your body. These physical metaphors, and I should add spatialization metaphors, become the conceptual framework on which we hang our understanding of everything that we experience. Have you ever noticed, like, let's say you really like this new car and you really want to get a new car, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, this is the car I want. I can't even name a car because I don't even know different cars. But let's just pretend. Okay, so yeah, maybe you have like your favorite car and you can't wait to get it, right? You identified this car. Now you see it everywhere, right? Now I see it here and I see it there and I see it in blue and I see it in red and I see, oh, is that champagne? Yes. You now get to, they were always there, but now because you've identified it, you see it more clearly and you see it more frequently. Because there's so much information coming at us all the time, we have to filter things out. We cannot process everything that comes at us. So if we are by nature filtering things out, how are we going to also filter things back in? And how can we widen our funnel of information so that we get, hopefully, what's needed? What's needed, and we aren't going to miss out. When we embody our lives fully, we discover new meaning that exists within our bodies, our intentions, and our actions. We have the power to transform our lives into meaningful dances by intentionally choosing paths for growth. So take a moment now, and I've given you 4 concepts at the bottom of this slide. We have the concept of relating, forms of relationship, and this can be everything from an awareness to an addressing to grasping, interlacing contact, right? Grasping, interlacing, sliding contact. There's all sorts of things, the whole spectrum. We might need a little more buoyancy. We might need a little more vigor and verve. Maybe we want to invite some more springing into our life. Maybe we want to feel a little bubbly again. A little lightness when life is getting us down. Or maybe what you need is some direction. Like, I need to just focus. I cannot be everything to everyone all at once. So I'm going to pick. I'm going to commit to it. Or maybe, okay, that's the destination. I'm going to pick that goal. I don't know how I'm going to get there, so I'm going to experiment. Let's see. I could travel toward it, travel away from it. Might turn. This feels weird. I don't know. Am I getting closer? I don't know. I can't see it. Can't see it. Right. I can experiment. Oh, there's a high branch. I'm going to go low. There's a low branch. I'm going to go high. I don't know. We encounter barriers all the time. But if we have our eye on the destination, maybe then we just experiment. Let the water flow around the rock, and it will continue right along the river. So pick one. Pick one. What do you find most attractive today in this moment? Today with everything that's going on. And every day. All right, somebody picked relating. Have we all picked one? Spring? Nutcracker. She wants to dance ballet. A little more joy. You know, that's part of the celebrations of these holidays as the weather turns dark is to bring lightness. To bring some lightness, to bring gratitude, to bring joy. When everything is coming down, right, and the leaves, well, in Southern California, but this idea of how are we going to create some buoyancy as we go. Beautiful. Okay. Any other volunteers? Destination. Yeah. Okay. So since no one picked direction, we're going to do it. So let's sit up tall. Take a deep breath. And let's take our hands. Let's first be grateful that it just so happens that those of us in the room have 2 of these. You know, and this could be used with any limb, any body part. We're going to use our hands just because we're seated. Let's take our Hands place high, right into place high. And now to place low. And again, through place middle to place high. And place low. And take your right hand and reach to your right. Left hand reach. And notice, oh, you're kind of like interacting with each other. Oh my gosh, you're like outside of your bubble. Reach outside of your bubble in some way. And now reach outside of your bubble in some way. Good. And one more time, up. And out. And down. Good. Now take an inhale. Exhale and reach up. How does that feel? Inhale and reach down. And now natural. Good. Arms. Pick any direction. Pick another direction. Just play. Yeah. Maybe you come in contact with somebody. Oh my gosh, relating. Contact. Relating. When we have direction, we find that our bubble, also called our kinesphere, actually, our kinesphere, our movement sphere, kina, like kinesiology, your kinesphere gets bigger when you reach into directions. And so when we might be feeling powerless or isolated, reaching into a direction could be a very healing thing to cultivate. And I think that especially, I mean, you're seated right now, but back here, what lives back there? I don't know, I can't see back there. Scary. The fact that we have eyes on the front of our body surface, wow, changes a lot. When we narrow our focus even more to look at a screen, the whole body responds to focus, to laser in. And that's a useful skill to have. Not bad, but it's going to have repercussions in the body. So what if we try to listen for something behind us? How does that change the body or sides of us? What is that experience? So I'll open it up for the last few moments for some questions. Things that came up about the work, or about my application, or observations you just had in our little mini movement experience. Mini movement. I'm also totally capable of sitting here in silence and stillness. I don't know what they're going to think. Behind the cameras on the air, it's like, oh no! Stillness and silence, the worst broadcasting ever. So, question?
I'm interested in how much of
She's interested in how much of this is unconscious. Well, until we make it conscious, all of it. We learn all of this in our initial interactions as babies. We create patterns of how our bodies operate. There are connectivity patterns that relate to our developmental patterns. We're born, first thing we do, breathe. If we aren't breathing, that's what they get us to do. Step one. Then, tactile information. Then, I start to notice and reach in and out of space. I become more aware. I start to move my head and my tail. I start to be able to push myself up or lower. I start to be able to, scooch myself back. Look at me, I'm so cool. Body half. Oh my gosh, I can crawl forward. Cross lateral. All of these connectivity patterns, those are innate. No one teaches a baby to do that. So, and then from there, all of our socializing and all of our verbal and our language acquisition shapes our values, how we see the world, what we see as right and wrong, what we believe we should or shouldn't do, how we want it. And it's necessary because we are social creatures. We need to be able to relate to each other. We need to have awareness so that I can address you with integrity, that I can motion toward you or motion away. We need these skills. So it's part of our socializing process. But yeah, totally unconscious.
I'm interested in something that you said about how all of our
Yeah.
in ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
or it's almost like you get that bottle function.
Oh, yeah.
So my question, so interested in your education
Mm-hmm.
time, because you just walk around campus and this is like our
Sure.
default issue, not
Yeah.
just for us. Well, it's
Yeah.
just like what you out of that bubble to you find it more, are students more resistant to the idea of physical movement? What have you noticed, or how do you
Yeah.
with
I think when I was a student, when I first started teaching, I would walk into a classroom and people would be jumping off the walls, and it would be my job to like rein them in. But now everybody is completely sedate, on the edge, on the perimeter of the room, waiting with their phone. Even if they don't have their phones, they're still just waiting for the world to come at them. I'm not sure. This is not always true for everybody, but that's the status quo. I mean, and you may have noticed too, when you walk in, other teachers, if you walk into your classroom, students generally are not talking to each other. They're now generally silent. And students, maybe you've experienced that. So what I cultivate is that we have to see each other. We have to experience each other, to connect, to resist that temptation to isolate, and to find community and physical communication is really valuable. So thank you so much. I'm so pleased that you're here today. Each one of you really makes a difference. And I hope that you will find yourself a seed in your small community. So thank you so much.